So a while ago, we made this tutorial about painting an Hive Kraken Tyranids, but it didn't come out quite right, right? Sometimes you do things and it works, sometimes you do things and it doesn't work. This one is one that didn't really work. So today, I think what we can do is put old Larry the Tyranid aside and try our hand again at Hive Kraken with another tutorial. So I got my guy here and he's painted in the leather brown primer. And so it starts with leather brown from the army painter because you can use it in the can, so you don't need an airbrush. You just like spray like a crazy person with your can, and then you use the actual paint to make minor touch-ups if your primer did not cover every aspect. But everything should be a good clean coat of leather brown at this at this stage. And then the next color that we're going to use is skeleton bone here, and we're going to go straight ahead and dry brush with this. So we're just going to dry brush this across the entire mini. So we don't need anything fancy here. We just want to dry brush the entire mini. No questions asked. That's why we use the big ass brush over there. But now we are good to go with this. So our next step, so we're gonna keep using skeleton brown, but now we're gonna switch to a skeleton bone, sorry, but we're going to switch to a smaller brush. And with this, we're just going to paint a couple of lines onto the carapace. So we can do the top, and then we can just do like fine lines. We don't need to, this here, completely optional, okay? You don't need to do this. If you don't feel like you can make small straight lines, you don't need to do this. But it just adds a little effect onto our final result. There we go. So the next step, once we got these little, these little lines here and there, I don't need a lot. And we're gonna add one even coat of Seraphim Sepia. So next step, with our super big brush, we're gonna make one even coat of Seraphim Sepia across the entire thing. So far we are at 3 colors for this, and already we start to have an interesting gradient of color. So now all we need is to get that cool Kraken color, and for this we're going to use Flesh Tear's Red contrast paint. And so this is kind of, if you're familiar with the slap chop technique, or sometimes it's called grisaille, it's fancy in French. But it's kind of the same thing. But this one we're modifying it slightly because we're using our bone color, and it works great because bone and white is kind of just pale enough that the contrast can do its thing. But now we get to kind of cheat all of our base coats. That's why this beginning step is kind of important. And also we also get to create all this contrast already, right? Like, so we have already like some shades and some highlights because of our wash. So our contrast is kind of got its work cut out for us. So Flesh Tear's Red is a very dark red. I really like it. Okay. So now that our thing has dried, and again, the cool thing is if you paint all of your dudes at once, you're not going to need to wait for them to dry, because let's say if you do even only 10 of these dudes, by the time you're at number 10, the first one will be dry. So you never have to wait, really. Another important thing with contrast is you try and never let it dry in the middle of something, because it starts to dry. Contrast starts to dry from the sides, because that's just how the way the all paint dry actually. So if I just do this and then I go somewhere else, the side here that I'm doing is going to dry first, and then you're not going to be able to get like a smooth finish with it. So that's why I'm doing kind of plate by plate, because the part where it dries is where I'm not going to get a smooth finish anyway, because it's in between two plates, so it won't matter. And here we go, and now we just have the plates on the little gun here to do. And then you can do the teeth here. The toofuses is the place where you can leave them as is because it's bone colored. You can make them red because it should be harder in like the claws and stuff. So all of our plates are done. And now the last color that we need is something to make this, take this to the next level. And I think the proper color for that is bright green. If you're not a fan of the bright green, you can use something that's like red, but a different kind of red for all of the little like venomous things in the eyes. But I think bright green is going to give us like a good contrast and something that makes our miniature pop a lot. So we're going to go with mood green, and then we're going to do basically all of the little venom sacs. And another interesting little thing that you can add to this is the optional one is to add yellow to this green, because this is aerial yellow. It's really bright, and it's gonna make the green stand out even more. If you want to again speed paint through this, don't bother with this. Just go straight to the next step. But I think it will look nice, and since it's our like accent color, might as well put a little extra work in it so that everything pops even more than it currently does. Alright, so now that we have had our little yellow highlights on there, and it looks suitably bright, we could take something like Bealton green and just give this guy one final shade on all of these green parts to make the contrast even more, amp up the contrast, sorry. And here we go. And so now we have a Tyranids, good old Tyranids, with a bunch of armor plates and some bright green. And then once we switch it to a proper base, then we're going to get the final result. And since this is again a speed painted model, we're going to use a very simple base that you can use. My two favorite picks would be either a City Fight base, because you can buy those already printed up, so you really just have to paint them, or something like this, which is just regular old sand. And this using something like this light brown, that was hard to say, you can make the red pop even more. So now we have like a very vibrant little model